All right, 5 o'clock, I'll reconvening the broadband meeting from June 7th. We pretty much, I think, left it with voting to change the RFP to an RFI, and went home and had a lot of homework, I think is where we pretty much left it off. Hopefully everyone's got to board docs and saw the different RFIs that have already been done. Mr. Hamilton from DHCD and Mr. Vaughn are on the Zoom in case we have questions or need some guidance from them. But I'll open the floor to board discussion with regards to the RFI and what Ms. Bond sent out today. I don't know if anybody had time to take a look at it, but she kind of put the King William, Mr. Curry versions together to some degree. And it may be longer than we need, but I think it's not a bad starting point unless you all disagree.
Madam Chair?
Yes, sir.
Just about 5 minutes before we recessed the meeting on Monday, I had made a suggestion that we perhaps appoint 2 members of this body to work with, maybe Ms. Bond and Mr. Curry, whoever else that we can tap information and energies from, and actually, write an RFI and come back and, about a week or so and have something that we can actually put out. So all I really did the last couple of days was attend that Zoom meeting that you had been on. But I had to attend it and get kicked out of it. Then I had to come back and look at the electronic, recorded version of it that they had put out since Wednesday. For some reason, I didn't lose internet, but I lost a connection to the Zoom meeting. Anyway, my biggest impression, both from the time I spent on that meeting on Wednesday and then coming back and subsequently going to the meeting again, the slide presentation, was that don't be in a hurry, and that we have several different pots of money to use, and that we can use it in ways that we have to be kind of what was the word that they used? Be innovative. So I think that to get in a hurry is the worst thing that we can do, and that was my recommendation. Yet I didn't hear back from any of the other members. I guess we were just trying to shut the meeting down and get on to the next one.
Well, I do believe I definitely hear the not in a hurry, and Ms. Smith had mentioned something about we don't have to have a partner just yet, and that is a true statement. Mr. Hamilton said that the July 27th does not require the partner to be selected yet. The deadline is September 14th for the submission. And he basically said it may be worth noting and emphasizing that the BATI application timeline in the RFI itself, so that those who do submit are aware that the following RFP that will follow afterwards would be a relatively short timeline and can prepare appropriately. So anybody that's really submitting the RFI information will know that an RFP is soon to follow, and they can start their homework to prep for that. So that is true that those are the key dates, but we don't want to miss getting the documentation in hand from the RFI in a way that we can actually finalize an RFP that gets us the information we're truly going to need. So the turnaround time on the RFI, I think, is probably 3 weeks. It's 2 to 3 weeks, I think, what we have on the document right now. And I would venture to say that somebody serious about this is going to take probably 3 weeks to get us the good information.
Yeah, 3 weeks sounds realistic. But I also spent some time trying to find out what one of these towers would look like that is supposed to be, developed for 100 down and 100 up. And I got an email back from the office of the governor that, you know, it doesn't really, they don't really have a picture of that because there's so many different types of services and service providers out there. So I'm just wondering, is this going to be a huge microwave dish like we have them properly down there on the Amosville Tower at the fire department? You know, that's like 9 foot or greater in diameter, or how tall those towers have to be. I mean, we may be going after something that's basically in violation of our own comp plan. So I think that we need to do an RFI for the different type of services, what they can provide. You know, first off, who's interested, but what they can provide and what that's going to look like. So I really think that, again, my statement from the other day, which is a borrowed statement, we don't even know what we don't know yet.
So I was looking at that thing on the internet, and the guy, he did say, don't get in too big a hurry. That he said things were going to change in July favorably, he thought.
That's the
It's
finance
It's
side
a
of it.
projection, yeah.
Yep.
So is that separate than what we're getting out of the RFI and the
No,
RFP?
if I understand it correctly, and Mr. Hamilton can correct me if I'm wrong, but the don't get in a hurry was with regards to the state is getting is going to have more funds that could actually come to the localities
Right.
as well for broadband. So they're saying that although, you know, do your homework, the monies, if you're looking at it going, I'm not going to have enough money to do this, don't just make that assumption because the state could actually give us even
right.
more.
Yeah, and then this seems like they're all initially, like whenever we met last time, not even a week ago, they were talking 100 and 100. Now it looks like it's 120 on the other side.
As long as it's scalable to 100, correct.
Oh, okay, so that really hadn't backed up any.
It's,
Got more lenient.
I think they got a little bit lenient that way on the 20.
Mr. Vaughn has his hand.
Oh, good.
Madam Chair, if I
I
may,
did not Mr. Vaughn speak.
Chandler Vaughn, I'm a policy analyst in the Office of Broadband. I work with Lonnie. I can provide some clarification on the speed requirements if you'd like.
Yes, sir.
So the American Rescue Plan funding, you were correct, it requires networks to be scalable to 100 megabits download, 100 megabits upload service, or 100 symmetrical, we'll say, is slang sometimes in the office. But networks can be built that implement 100 download over 20 upload service at the start and then be scalable up to that 100 over 100 benchmark. But that is at the time of construction that those networks have to meet that 100 over 20 measurement for wireless networks. Fiber networks wouldn't have a problem meeting that 100 over 100 benchmark.
Mr. Vaughn, Christine Smith here, and I just want to thank you because I thought that video of the Commonwealth Connect coverage the other day that you all uploaded to YouTube was very instructive. And really, between that and the website, helped me sort out a few things. If I understand it correctly, what we're really talking about is that there are two opportunities in play this year. One is the body, which you all have released the 2022 guidelines for recently, and the other is this ARP funding, which we're sort of trying to read the tea leaves on what the General Assembly is going to do this summer and anticipate possibly having a program that would work for both the body and the ARP funding. Is that what we're really talking about here?
So I would certainly say in your RFI or RFP, whichever model you consider going with, that respondents should respond with information or proposals that meet the American Rescue Plan guidance as for around the local fiscal recovery fund, as well as meet body guidelines that were issued on June 4th. I would say, just make that a prerequisite for respondents that, whatever information on networks or proposals on networks they provide meet both of those thresholds. Um, in terms of, kind of giving you the cliff notes on funding this coming summer, our general guidance that you'll hear us on the broadband staff in the governor's office and us in the office of broadband say is that, we're just recommending folks wait until the General Assembly determines how much of the state pot of money that's coming from the feds will go to broadband. So the state's receiving 4.3 billion. The guidelines are the same here. So, we can devote some of that money to broadband, which would very likely go to plus up the VADI pot of money. So whatever, guidelines that VADI has would directly apply to those funds as well, if that helps clarify anything.
In the past, body's been 25-3. So, but you're saying for what we're gonna be looking at this summer, likely we're gonna need to at least be scalable to 100.
Well, it depends if you'd like to use American Rescue Plan money for your VADI project.
Okay.
Let's say you come in for a VADI application. You don't have to submit an application that meets that 100/20 benchmark. But if you didn't, that just means you couldn't use any American Rescue Plan money for it. But we could still fund you out of that $50 million pot of VADI if the application was awarded.
Okay. I mean, I think what we experience as a rural county with challenging terrain and not only topography, but geology, we're a very rocky county in addition to being, a Piedmont county. And so we sort of have a double whammy in terms of fiber to the home. And then the terrain, of course, is challenging with any sort of fixed wireless solution. And that, we may not be able to achieve, great speed with a fixed wireless solution. So we do have a provider locally that works with a lot of folks in the county. And, 120 on the other end or 100 and 100 is not really feasible for him. But at the same time, it's what we've got, and it works for a lot of people.
And I think if I understand the application process, the local business could partner with the Chantel of the world or another larger company and do partially fiber to the homes and then fixed wireless and work together on a program that would get the highest speeds to the most number of citizens in the county.
Hello, I'm not sure how well this works. I've never Zoomed from a phone before, but I was going to suggest that since it sounds like you are going with an RFI process, it might be worth writing in the document that, you'd ideally like to be able to use the ARPA money and meet that 100/100 requirement, but also note that, you're open to a proposal that is strictly VADI, no federal funding, and then you don't have to worry about the 100/100. You just have to meet the 25/3. So keep yourself then open to both options.
So basically document strictly VADI or the ARPA.
I mean, and I think that's wise because we do have to keep in the back of our mind that we do have, I know some folks have used the word launder, which is not exactly the right word. It doesn't really carry warm, fuzzy feelings with it, but we did use some CARES money in ways that freed up other funds. That the intention was always to use those monies for broadband. And if I remember right, it's about $500,000 between public safety and school money that we had returned.
So bottom line, the way to move forward, if I understand correctly, is through the RFI process to find out who is interested in participating and partnering with us, and then taking that information and turning it around into an RFP that would give us more solid information as to who can do what successfully.
Right. One advantage of an RFI, I'd like to think, is that you don't have to be nearly as specific, and you can keep your options open and, let everyone know that, okay, we're considering several different paths. So in addition to your kind of idea of what you'd want to do, like which path do you want to go down?
And in terms of timing, Mr. Vaughn, do you think it's still an opportune time to issue an RFI? And then we'll have time to follow up with an RFP in the near future?
Certainly, I think that, as long as we're watching our timelines here, you said a 3-week timeline on RFI. And then you don't have to identify an internet provider by the time of the notice of application, which is July 27th. But of course you would when the application is due to be submitted on September 14th. So, I would, you have time, but I would just move quickly here because it is going to take, 2 or 3 weeks to put together that body application with a, ISP partner. If you're interested in coming in for body this round, of course.
Right.
Which,
Well, sounds like.
go ahead.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say, do any of us have any objection to taking that route? And should we go ahead and take Mr. Frazier's suggestion and have a mini board and meet in the meantime, or just go ahead and skip that part and put out the RFI? One would just, is there any real, Mr. Frazier, do you still believe there's a necessity for a sub committee if we decide today to go ahead and do the RFI route?
Yeah, because I think that way we can maybe get some work done. It's difficult to get all 5 of us together. And I think we should do it.
Well, I know Margaret has done considerable work with the RFI examples that were hosted. So I would think Margaret would definitely be a key player. Her legal background helps her with the writing as well, which is great. I think you could probably get something for this authority to review within the next 3 or 4 days. Because of the examples that we've got. I did go through all of them and they basically have the same key points. It's just one county versus another. And then adding some information that the King William one seemed to be more, a little bit more detailed in the RFI than the others. And so I would think we could come back easily to the authority within a 5-day turnaround, if that would suit this committee or authority.
I might offer a suggestion that was put out to the authority board at the time of the joint meeting of the broadband committee and the authority board, which was and Alan here can verify this. We, as a committee, unanimously volunteered to stay engaged with this process and to be available to be called upon for different areas of expertise to assist for just something like this. And honestly, you all have a lot on your plates. To have some way of being able to get some relief from the nitnoid staff type stuff, I think is maybe a good time to call upon those volunteers and see if they can step up and help you out.
So I guess the question, if the 5-day turnaround is good, who should basically work with Margaret to make sure we get this done? We could give Margaret the authority to pull a couple from the broadband committee if you don't have any problems with that. And I'd be happy to stay engaged because I've done so much at this point already.
I wouldn't mind doing it, but I think there seems to be a kind of a hidden agenda with some folks that they want us to go with this immediately, with this RFP. So I think that we really ought to have 2 members of this body, no matter how many members of the committee that we can pull together. Since we didn't abolish the committee, you have to wonder how many of the members of that too, because you start having a joint meeting of one or both bodies.
No, the broadband committee was.
Disbanded.
Okay, sorry about that. But yeah, I guess we can certainly do that then.
That's fine.
So since Debbie's been involved in this and Ron has been involved in this, what about Mr. Frazier and Ms. Donahue to help Ms. Bond going forward, and we'll look back for something results in 5 days. And that'll keep us on schedule.
No, Wednesday night should be planning commission, right?
Right.
So then we're to Thursday would be, I would think,
Thursday's your earliest opportunity.
With
If you
no
can't
change.
notice today.
yeah.
Okay.
So, and I'm happy to help. I wonder if it would behoove us to take a look through the one you all think is closest to what we're going for and just do a quick read through it. I mean, we're all here. We've only been here for 20 minutes. You know, I just think maybe a quick read, if we can all just comment on what we like, what we're concerned about.
You're talking about King William?
Well, I mean, there is the King William that's been redrafted to the RFI. It's called RCBA RFI Draft 10. Without edits. Is that the one we should be looking at?
Yeah, and that was an email. I didn't get time to post it. I don't think anybody did. I can't read that far.
Oh, I see.
Did you receive that, Mr. Curry? I don't know.
I believe an email came in and review it.
Just thinking we could pull it up on the screen if I can get it to you.
Yeah, it basically follows the very same format as King William.
Yeah, I've got a hard copy of some of it.
Yeah.
I've got a hard copy as well.
If you guys want to start with that. Yeah, I think the King William one, I'm not on top of all the technical details, but if Ms. Donna, who I know has been putting a lot of work into this, feels like the technical details of the King William version adapted for us are okay, and they're consistent with what we're hearing from the state folks and wouldn't preclude us from pursuing one funding source or another, then it seems like a pretty good starting point. I've read it. Okay.
The King William was 5 years old, so technologies and everything has changed a lot since then. I think we probably should use the template that's on the Commonwealth Connect, one of their toolkits. Probably kind of patch things together. I think we probably come up with something that's about half that size and addressing the issues. I really would like to see what one of these 100 up, 100 down structures is going to look like. Because we may wind up with something we don't want.
I mean, that is maybe a question for Mr. Vaughn. Mr. Vaughn, are you still with us?
Yes, still here.
One of our guiding principles that we see exhibited throughout our comprehensive plan, in particular Rappahannock County, is that we declare ourselves to be a scenic county, and everything we do devolves from and reflects that ideal. And so, as you can imagine, that would probably put us in a little different place in regards to our feelings about towers than a lot of our peers in the Commonwealth. So is that something that you think that we should present on the front end? I mean, I know a lot of these RFIs are pretty cookie cutter, but to me, it seems like that should be something we should kind of tilt our hand to people coming in.
So I wouldn't recommend limiting yourself to anything at this point. And that this is the recommendation of Chandler Vaughn. I would still collect information on that and say, you know, clearly in your RFI, please include information about the potential technology types being used, you know, in this proposal. And then, you know, they can expand from there, or you can expand from there in your RFI, what that might look like. You know, if you're planning on using a wireless network, please describe the, you know, size of potential towers being used in the network. You know, if it's a fiber application, is that aerial fiber? Is that fiber in the ground? I think that, you know, you leave yourself open here. Don't limit yourself to any possibility, but ask questions in there about what the technology type is that's planned to be used, and if respondents can expand on that technology and what it'll physically look like.
And would it be fair to ask respondents also maybe to include pictures of installations to give us some ideas about what those installations look like?
maybe.
You know, you can include anything in the RFI, really. I would just leave your options open here. I wouldn't recommend one way or another as far as pictures. I would just ask for a description at minimum of what that technology is and what it looks like.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Curry has pulled up the document that Ms. Bond worked on, kind of combining some of what Mr. Curry put together. So it's specific to Rappahannock as well as some of the items that she felt King William covered well. If you all are open to it, I think we could go page by page and get an idea of areas that maybe cover too much or don't cover enough, which would give us a direction for the next couple of days to edit it.
The one thing I did wonder about page 1 under inquiries, when Dr. Bolt was here from the school system, she recommended that we set aside a window of time to field inquiries in a Zoom call or something of that nature, so that Mr. Curry has a targeted time that he's answering questions about this and not sort of answering questions until responses are due, although that will probably happen too. But that, I remember that was her recommendation, was that we try to target a time to field questions because most people have the same questions.
But just to be clear, this doesn't say that I'll answer any questions, because I didn't want to write that I would be answering on behalf of the authority. It just says I will compile questions and coordinate with this body to get answers. And generally what happens with this sort of thing is the questions come in, and then an addendum is released with answers to all the questions to anybody that we know has a copy and has expressed an interest.
Okay.
And you can promulgate that in the document somewhere that says specifically that, but I kept it more general.
Thank you, Gary.
So I think page 1 is pretty much the general, who's going to do who is actually completing the form, the RFI. Purpose on page 2, and Margaret, I think the 95's got to become 97 to do universal across everywhere. I know you caught it somewhere else, but
Yes.
yeah.
You see on page 3.
And, it's saying one or more internet service providers. So this is really kind of an open game for, Piedmont Broadband could team up with somebody else, data stream, and do something together or do something totally separate. County backgrounds, probably we could add a little bit of the scenic vision that Ms. Smith was commenting. If we are concerned about it, we could put it right in there.
Like actually reference the comprehensive plan or link to comprehensive plan.
Sure.
I think that would be really wise.
Yeah. These vertical assets, as they call them. We may not want a lot of that.
The interesting thing, if I understand correctly, that Culpeper has done, because they had started out going fixed wireless and now have decided to do fiber to the home. They actually have a agreement with REC to use their fiber, and they're buying or paying for easements. So there is some fiber going overhead and some fiber going through the ground.
I think if we try for
But it was just allergy.
much fiber in the ground, we're gonna run up against a lot of calls.
Right, we are into county background we can do, I'm sure. Partnership, it did say desired outcome. Margaret is, I think, merged this with the King William ideas. Changed the universals defined as 97% coverage. The 18-month period is actually the governor's goal. I don't see how Virginia is going to be able to do that, but maybe we'll be surprised. And she's got marked through and underlined for changes that have been made.
This is the version that does not include any changes notice.
Oh, okay.
This is the one. If you want me to pull it over.
I think, I don't know, as Mr. Fraser can see what's going on. I just want to make sure he's,
Well, I mean, I can save whatever I do here.
provided by, let's see, investment only for unserved internet speeds of less than 10.1 is considered unserved, or underserved internet speeds of less than 25.3.
I think we need to go back to the paragraph that starts recognizing the pandemic investment opportunity. I would just say recognizing the current investment opportunity. I would start to maybe, I don't think we need to bring the pandemic into this. I would just say recognizing the current investment opportunity the RCBA desires to provide, and blah, 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 which is all fine. And then the ARPA speeds are in here. But I really think that we should also include the body speeds in here. Because there are 2 tracks this year. There are 2 sets of criteria involved in those tracks. And I think we need to differentiate, cast a little bit of a broader net.
Okay, we can explain the body requirement speed-wise and the to access the ARPA funds, what it would be. And people or businesses can pick and choose. They could go for the gold or go for the a little bit less funding, and still potentially, based on the reviews that we do, still be able to win a contract, I guess, a partnership.
Well, I think I always think of Kirby Thornton when we kind of get to these sort of decisions, and I don't want to build a monopoly. I want to build something with redundancy and options for people.
All right, so Margaret will add the body section into that paragraph, I would think.
The 2 criteria, one for ARPA, one for body.
Yep.
Which one? What the requirements are, that can just move to the alley.
I mean, I think that's how I feel about it. I don't know how any other authority members feel, but I think it's important to make that distinction and encourage people that maybe don't qualify under the ARPA guidance, but do qualify under body guidance to still apply. Because at the end of the day, we might not end up with the dance partner that we think we're going to get, and we might be real happy to have someone else on their card.
Never hurts to have more information, I agree. Next paragraph, internet speeds, that was the identification of underserved and unserved. Identifying the existing, the legwork, I guess. I don't know, maybe that Lonnie, you can tell me, at some point, anybody interested in providing coverage for Rappahannock County is going to have to know almost door to door who's got what kind of service, because the census information is crazy wrong. And so we're going to have to, whoever's going to do this is going to have to really have a better understanding of what we have in the county currently.
Not necessarily. Ideally, they will, and ideally, they'll have a really good idea. It's very unlikely they'll know exactly, but at least in the body process, because we have the challenge process kind of at the end, we encourage, localities and ISPs both to try and get an idea, but at the end of the day, you might include a served area, and that ISP will make sure you know about it once you do. So then you can take the information from the challenge process and kind of, whittle away based on what they say is served already. They prove it's served to us, and we go, okay, then you don't need to worry about serving that because it's already taken care of. That's why we always emphasize you never need a perfect map to get here.
Okay, I looked on the Commonwealth Connect site, and part of the county, the southern part, I think, is showing all in fiber. And it was like, that's not right.
might be at this point, I could also reference that interim report, I go through that periodically, and there were maps at the end of it that showed where the various ISPs supposedly covered. I don't know how accurate they are, but it might be helpful to have that as a reference for anybody looking at it.
Well, and that's what I noticed, a lot of the other RFIs and RFPs included maps. And we do also have the recent maps that the school has kind of drawn together for us that might be helpful as well.
Yep. All right, anything else on this section? I know Mr. Parrish has to leave around 6, so. Desired outcome. The identify existing services was what we were just talking about, basically. Deployment plan. Capital investment needed to complete the deployment plan. And really basically making sure that whoever applies knows that they're going to take a leadership role and work with us, but we need them to do a large portion of the work. Section 5 is definitely from the King William plan. So you might want to look at that closely. That whole section is new, so I don't know if you've had time to look at that or not.
I mean, and I think the other thing that we need to emphasize is it may be, it looks like there's something happened at number 7 there.
Yeah.
But that we maybe should include that, you know, whatever the final result may be a collaborative effort, and so people should be aware that it may require collaboration on their part. So that might be something to include also. And
In the goals and objectives, put that into that section.
oh yeah, that's probably a good place for it as any. Or it might be under desired outcome. I'll leave that to y'all to sort out. It's part of its leading and then part of its learning.
Margaret, 9B has King William County still there.
And then information under part 5, missing an I and an A.
Is this particular version that we're working on, is it in a PDF form or a form that we can edit?
It's an editable form.
Editable
I
form.
included in the bulk out this week. I'm not good with cheats. A little complicated.
But there's not much I can do because this thing, if I look at the desktop, it looks intelligent and it's organized. And when I look at it with an iPad and the iPhone, it's just absolutely.
Format
Gotcha.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so right now it's kind of messed up, so.
And I think Mr. Curry is editing with the comments that we're giving him right now, so that's helpful.
Oh.
Oh, 9 is please describe potential partnerships you feel will may be necessary to enable to achieve its goals. That might be a good spot.
Collaboration.
Yeah.
What do you want put where?
Under 9, Ms. Smith was talking about making sure that people know that to take care of Rappahannock County, it may actually take a collaboration of a couple of companies getting together to make it happen. 9 describes.
That may cover it pretty well.
Yeah. And then submissions, I assume we're thinking this is going to be 3 weeks at the least. If we're not going to approve until Thursday, hopefully Thursday, that gets us to the beginning of July, basically. And then potentially a 2-week turnaround or 2.5-week turnaround on the RFP. I don't even know if that's possible because there's so much information you need to provide.
Again, somewhere sooner or later, somebody's gonna have to develop a map that shows all the different services that are available and where they are. I might be able to get somebody to help me with that, but I'm gonna probably need some information. I don't really know what the Starlink service area is.
And I think the DHCD folks may know because they got RDOF funds, I think, for the county. Starlink did.
Mr. Vaughn's hands.
Mr. Vaughn?
Yes, I can address the satellite concerns, satellite broadband concerns first. Our program doesn't consider areas awarded to satellite providers as served. So whatever respondent you would have for a body grant or ARP money could come in for funding for that area that was awarded to a satellite provider.
And you, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say regarding the timelines of the RFIs and RFPs, we keep a pretty close watch on those things in the state RFI RFP system that a lot of local governments use. And quite honestly, a 2-week time frame is pretty standard on a lot of these things. I mean, some go longer for extremely big projects. I don't think that, given the size of the state, I don't think you guys fall into that category. So I wouldn't, think that a 2-week timeline or 2.5, 3-week timeline is a bad thing here. I would just say that as a something up front before you decide on a timeline. Don't shy away from 2 weeks just because I think it's a short time frame.
An RFI, 2 weeks probably makes more sense for it, where the RFP is more in depth and would take a little bit longer potentially.
And a lot of these respondents are going to have, pretty standard language that they submit with these things, right? I mean, hopefully this isn't the ISP's first rodeo in responding to your RFI or RFP. So I think that the process of responding to these is less burdensome if an ISP already has responded to another county in the past.
Right, and y'all have been talking to Chantal, I remember, and maybe someone else too, but that means that some of your potential partners should not be surprised by this. They should have some of this ready to go as it is.
Yeah, the broadband committee, I think, had met just about with every ISP except for maybe CenturyLink. I don't think we ever met with them. So CenturyLink, and I don't know, did we have Comcast come in? I don't remember seeing them either. Right. So those will be the only ones that will be a surprise because we've talked to the others from the committee side anyway. And the information that Mr. Fraser's looking for ties back to what coverage we truly have in the county to date and whether we're underserved or unserved. At the RFI level, is that something we need to worry about, or is it at the RFP level?
Do you mean the distinction between unserved and underserved, or do you mean identifying who's unserved versus served?
What services and service providers and where they are, because we have some fiber networks, we have some WISP is wireless internet service providers, and we have people that use the cell towers with data cards. Some of those people are going to be locked into those services. They're not going to go with this new service provider if we choose one. So I thought if we just had a map that shows all the different colors of what is where and who has what, and try to find the pockets that are, I guess the unserved gray or white or non-colored areas or whatever crayon you happen to want to use out of the box. I mean, we kind of do that when we look at cell tower coverage when they apply for a special permit to put up a cell tower. we do that when we buy the radio equipment that we use for, public service agencies, but here we don't have a standard map to know who's doing what where.
That makes good sense.
And I think, does the Department of Housing have that information? And
Unfortunately, that is one of the hardest things for anyone to get. We don't have a perfect map like that. No one person probably does. We will have a map like that in the next year or so. Hopefully, that's something we're working on. But that's only been enabled by, relatively recent congressional act, which means that you're not going to have that perfect map. So you kind of have to work with some incomplete information. Each ISP should know where they are, but they'll also be reluctant to release that information to you or anyone unless you're actively working with them. And even then, they still might be a little secretive about it. But as long as they're designing the project around those areas, it should work out.
Yeah, procedurally, I would say that it's okay to ask for them to provide a general map of existing networks when they respond to their RFI if they're an incumbent provider. But that process of determining where served and unserved areas are will come through in the VADI application process.
okay.
If I can just give you a little bit of historical context, that was one of the first things that the committee tried to do was establish a map. And what we found was that either the service providers are unwilling to give us their proprietary data, or they flat out lie and say that they're covered, meaning cell phone service providers say we have coverage here, when we know on the ground they don't. But we did interview households and put together a rough map that we had. I'm sure you can find it back in the day, but that's 3 years out of date.
Yes. We know sort of the telephone type service providers, generally where those go, like Verizon's and the CenturyLinks. And I guess we have one ISP we all know personally. We know the ownership personally. Maybe you'd be willing to at least show us.
You can tell from the telecoms of the process, but even AT&T and Sprint and T-Mobile, there are third parties that buy valuable data in bulk and repackage it, and they are nationwide companies that aren't necessarily keeping data of who the local customers are in this area. It's hard to tease out.
So at the RFI level, we probably don't have to worry about that, but anybody that's going to submit for the RFP is going to have to worry about that.
We may have to try and take a stab at finding your old map and then recoloring it.
I bet Margaret has it. I bet you have it, don't you?
There's small maps and kind of
Hard to see.
work with it, and they're not all the same scale. They're not put together. A little harder, doable.
Gotcha. Any other edits on the, I think we're at the page 5.
I just wonder, and maybe Mr. Long could speak to this, the sample RFI on the Commonwealth Connect website includes a lot of boilerplate language in the last couple of pages. Do you recommend we include that on our RFI when we put it out, or is just a simple kind of disclaimer sufficient?
Yeah, I think a simple disclaimer there would be sufficient. We can get more technical in the RFP from that point.
All right, well, I think unless you see something else that needs to be changed right off the bat, we could, Margaret, I don't know what your timeline is, but we could probably get something done quicker.
Just working with this and kind of keeping these comments, that's really good suggestions. Is it acceptable in terms of the Open Meetings Act if we circulate this successive drafts, iterative drafts, so that you all can look at it, make comments, get it back? Is that, I think, Darren, you had some concerns that due to, or actually, Christian, too many
Replies quickly on an email.
Well,
Yep.
if it's only 5 pages and we notice the meeting and meet on Thursday, I feel confident that we can work through it pretty succinctly on Thursday, given the discussion tonight.
It seems cleaner and better.
And if the authority board members are okay with sending stuff back to be included in it that you're not seeing for the first time on Thursday, that would be helpful.
Yeah, you just have to watch out. I think the term is spontaneity. So if I send out an email at 11:11, you answer at 11:12, and then one of the other more is 11:13 and 15 and 17.
Then it becomes a meeting.
Right.
We're having an electronic meeting, but
So wait an hour?
well, yeah, maybe.
20 minutes or so.
Then it looks more like inter-office memos or
Yeah.
something.
I'm feeling so spontaneous right now.
We're like old fashioned.
17th meeting timeframe.
What's the opposite of spontaneous?
I guess the opposite of
I mean, we can meet in the morning if people are available.
spontaneity is
Okay.
what we've been doing, kicking the can down the road.
Conference. The 17th, I'm open in the morning and in the afternoon. I don't know what the other authority members.
That's
The
Thursday.
building committee meeting that morning.
I think I have to do evening.
Evening. So we're gonna go 5 o'clock again?
Later wouldn't be bad.
But
I'm
there
gonna need-
could be court that day, so pushing it early is dangerous.
Okay.
I'm gonna need 6.
6 o'clock?
Say it, but it's gonna be one of those days.
I'm fine with 6. You go with 6?
Yeah, when you finish on.
What day is it?
It's a Thursday the 17th. You available? Yes.
What time?
6? Does that work?
I think so.
We need you here. Hopefully we can vote on it and,
Yeah, I think that'll work.
once we approve the RFI, it just gets mailed out to everybody? Or do we post it on the board docs and they come to it? How does that work?
Whatever you want.
Okay,
I've seen it where it is posted, specific, recipients are sent copies of we encourage you to respond, we can do a combination of things.
all right, so maybe we should come up with a list of who we're gonna send it to, so we can all agree on that on Thursday as well.
Do the gentleman from DHCD have any suggestions about circulating?
Yeah, I think whatever your normal procurement practice is there is fine. Whether that's posting on your website or if you post it to a larger database. You can also make sure that, folks are aware that it's there too, by sending who you've been working with an email.
Any other discussion? Yes, Alan?
Just make a comment from the audience. Usually I come to these meetings and I rail against the board and all kinds of, ranting and raving, but I have to applaud you all for doing this work. I think it's great that you are, and I appreciate all your hard work, and I know everybody I talk to does. And I would just give you one caveat: make no small plans in this regard.
Okay.
The technology is changing rapidly, and you may be overcome by events and new technologies and new players. But I think it behooves you as a board to, do your best for our citizens, is to not damn us with small expectations in yesterday's technology. We already have that, but it's not functional. So think big, think large, and think towards the future rather than past.
Well said. And thanks for all your work over the years on broadband stuff. I mean, that's the foundation.
Yeah, well, I'm impressed with how everybody's working on this. I'm really grateful that you're doing it.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. The gentleman from DHCD, any words of wisdom before we move for adjournment?
Yeah, I can go, and if Lonnie still has a connection, I guess he can follow up. But just make sure when you're getting these responses, thank you universally. We really want to see projects pick up their entire county this year, whether that be a project with one ISP that serves the northern half and one ISP that serves the southern half, or one person that brings service to everybody in the county. We just want to make sure that folks aren't leaving anybody behind with these projects.
And I think that webinar the other day really helped set the tone of everybody gets covered, and think big, don't think small. So appreciate y'all's help, definitely. Anything else from the authority?
No, thanks a lot, Mr. Vaughn. I'm sure this is your dream Friday night. We're grateful.
And Mr. Hamilton, thank you.
Yeah, thank you both.
All right.
Yeah, of course. I'm sorry I had to be driving the whole time.
That's okay. You got short notice. I really appreciate that you made it.
Yeah, of course.
All right, I'll take a motion for adjournment. Oops.
We won't do that.
No?
So
Oh,
we
are we
wanna
gonna just continue? Let's do that. Let's just continue on Thursday.
Well, in perpetuity.
Yes,
One big meeting.
excellent. Thank you, everyone.
6/17/21 at 6 p.m. in this location.
Yes, sir.
Thank you both for coming.
So is that a vote for the motion and a second to continue?
Oh,
I didn't hear that.
I need a motion for that as well.
I make a motion that we continue this meeting on Thursday, the 17th at 6 p.m. in the current location of the Rappahannock County Courthouse.
Perfect. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you, everybody. That was great.